Hi, my name is Pholafudi, and I'm going to share with you today a testimonial on how I increased my income by a surplus of 30,000 Rand a month through W sales course. It all started with a burning desire, whereby as a young entrepreneur in training, I realized that I needed to find a niche within a market in construction that would enable me to conduct business without having to participate directly into the tendering game. Now, I was told that for me to make a success out of uh, out of this industry, I needed very strong connections. And I realized that after having gone through some of the courses offered by Dr. Hannes Dreyer, that is simply not true. And what did I do? I simply reviewed the skill sets that I had learned over the past years, which was basically one of the laws, being the first that I had learned from Hannes, that invest in yourself. Now, back then in the university years, I realized that I'd actually done a thesis on the performance of imaging contractors. Now, the findings of the whole research was that if there's two shortfalls that the imaging contractors were looking for, was that of management and the financials. And then the whole picture now became, it's like I saw a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and I had to dig further. Now, I studied the market likewise, and the summary were basically like this. First, I realized that only a small number of contractors had an idea in terms of how much profit they made, and they also had no idea in terms of how much losses they made. Well, as for the losses, there's quite a substantial number who ended up quitting or vanishing away into thin air. Now, the second one was there was the planning phase of the project. That was basically not existent. Now, I realized I'd even remembered a quote called that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that made a lot of sense. And now, how I related this was basically that a lot of these guys were being reactive rather than being proactive. And now, lastly, the third thing was that on average, I'd realized that on a 15 million rand project, that these contractors were losing plus minus 1.5 million lost in terms of unrealized profit. Now, this being the case, I was basically working on this as part of my core story. That was part of what I was emphasizing on when I wanted to get the attention of these contractors. Now, this is just basically a small cost analysis on a 6 months project that I'm going to use as an example. Now, if we've got a project of, say, 15 million rand, now the expected profit would be that of between 5 to 15%, depending on the competency of a person. Then one would fall within the following categories. If one is competent and is able to get up to 15%, then that particular person would get 2.25 million basically. And then if he is not competent, but at least he can meet the basics, then he's able to make about 750,000 as a profit. Now, in a worst case scenario, which happens a lot, the guys end up not making not even a cent or in a serious negative. And now, that being the case, you'd ask yourself, where goes the remainder of the money? And there goes in the material and the labor. Right? Now, what did I do? I basically took the tracking of prospects system. They call it my perfect point. I'm calling it my perfect point system. In my perfect point system, this is basically a summary of what I've done in a month after having attended the course. So what I did was to basically track at least 9 contractors whom I realized that they were quite busy people. Now, out of 9 people, you'd realize that I'd only managed to make one closing, which is number 8 here, which is number 8, here, where I managed to get 9 points. By that I mean that I'd managed to close and actually got myself a contract. Now, what does my contract look like? Here is the structure of my contract. What I do basically is that I'm now appointed as the contracts manager. I basically do negotiations and contracts on behalf of his company to both the subcontractors and the suppliers. Now, this is a job which, when once is done right in the first place, then we did not longer review it, unless, of course, there's some issues that arise, and that will be dealt with as per the contract which has been signed. And then also what I do is to participate effectively into the planning phase of the project and not the implementation phase. Now, if I have to go into the implementation phase, then we'd have to renegotiate about my contract. Now, for me to keep up with my planning phase, I simply need to do site visits once a month, which are excluding the fees that I'm about to disclose. Now, as a result, my fee structure at the moment was that of 30,000 Rand. Now, I'd learned something very interesting from Hannes recently that although I never knew at the time what it meant, it was basically the fact that when I tested this out, I'd managed to get 2 checks to the amount of 55,000 for 2 months. And that was a big wake-up call for me to realize that, but you could turn this into a serious business. And so I went ahead and opened a sole proprietor account in which I'm running this. And maybe just to share also that I need only 8 hours in a week in order to do what I showed you previously. Now, as part of the accelerator principle for the formula, what I did was to hire an assistant whom I pay 3,500, and in that 3,500, that is now impacted these 8 hours that I was spending, in which that I now need to spend, say, up to, say, 5 hours in a month, and no longer 8 hours anymore. Now, I'm going to take you through the course summary. The experience, I can tell you, it was overwhelming. It's very strange that you would find that we've been confoculated for quite some time, and the guys were actually cashing up big time on us, and yeah, that's I'm kind of lost for words when I now start to think about the experience and all that information that I've learned. And that brings me to my second point, that the value of the course is actually nothing compared to what you're going to get. And if you really do apply some of this principle, I do not foresee how you could fail, really. I mean, I'm only applying a fraction of the information that I've learned, and slowly but surely I'm applying them, and it's great to see results. I mean, we do a lot of courses, and basically once you get out of there, that's it. So the results I experienced basically was to sell myself very well. For quite some time I tried this, but I had very little results because I had no strategies in place. I had I did not know the right ways to procure or to tell the people in terms of selling myself. And maybe just a quick brief also on the webinars. I mean, guys, the webinars are extremely valuable. If it was me, I would say that each webinar is at least 25 US dollars minimum, and so that's like a course on its own. So the breakthroughs that I made was basically to realize that there's a big market out there. It does not matter what type of connections that one has. One can develop his or her own connections. And maybe in that regard, I give much thanks to Scott Picken and Dr. Hannes Dreyer. Thank you guys for making me have a better life. And I look forward to learning more from you in future. Thank you.